Welcome, everyone, to the Sand, Dying, and Living online event, where we gather to explore and reflect on the wisdom brought by death and loss and life. My name is Lynn Murphy, and I'm delighted to be here with Unmani today. I'm going to just very briefly introduce Unmani and her work, and then hand it over to her for our time together. So Unmani is originally from the UK, and if you read her beautiful bio online, you see that she really followed a passion for truth and followed it all over the world, found a Zen master teacher that brought her into these teachings and continued to unfold from there. Over the last 15 years, she's been holding retreats and meetings and online webinars and has written 3 books and supports people to wake up to the truth of who we really are, and also in how this truth can actually be lived in our daily lives. A few years ago, Unmani was ushered into another event, very appropriate for our conference theme here today, by the sudden death of her husband, Robert. And he was a talented musician who put words to her teachings in his beautiful guitar playing. And with that, I would say, welcome, Unmani. Thank you for making time to be with us here today. And I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Lynn. It's good to be here and wonderful to see you all. I'd like to just start our session today by just taking a few moments to be silent, to just close our eyes and to feel whatever is here. To notice the breath, just the way it is. And the sensations, just the way they are for you right now. And if there are thoughts, they're also included. They're welcome to be here. They're not a problem. They don't disturb anyone, unless you believe that they do. Just noticing them all. The direct experience, just the way it is. And although we're all in our separate homes, in our little boxes on the screen, but somehow we're meeting here together right now. meeting beyond meeting, meeting beyond separation, in the wholeness that we really are. So when you're ready, you can open your eyes and take a look at all these wonderful people on the screen. So the title of this session is Heartbreak is Heart Opening, the Gift of Grief. And as Lynn mentioned, about 2.5 years ago, my husband, the love of my life, my best friend, and also the father of my little son, who's now 5, died suddenly from a heart attack while we were in India. And I held him in my arms as he died. And for me, this was a big slap in the face. As much as I have been on this path, living the truth, loving the truth, since I was a child, I've had a passion for the truth, to wake up to what is real. And everything in my life has always been an opportunity to explore myself, to wake up more and more and more endlessly to what is real. And this too, this big slap in the face of my love suddenly leaving his body, I have to say was perhaps the biggest wake-up call that I've ever had. And of course, it was painful, it was shocking, it was traumatizing. But all the while, I knew that it was some kind of gift. And I'm not saying that from some kind of belief. I'm not saying that I believed that it was a gift. Actually, I hated it, of course. I didn't want him to die. But it felt like a cracking open. It felt like once again life had taken my face and shoved it in the dirt, which, as much as it was extremely uncomfortable, it is always actually what I long for. It is always, I always long for more and more seeing that I am not this limited to this human. And seeing once again that someone that felt more alive than anyone I'd ever met could die just like that, with no warning, just finished, was such an invitation to acknowledge what doesn't die. And of course, I was absolutely broken. I was devastated. My life felt like I was turned upside down and inside out. But at the same time, the heartbreak was a heart opening. The love that we shared between him and I somehow was cracked open so that it was no longer limited to him and I. And even though before his death, I knew that love that is not limited to this human, but somehow this was a deeper recognition of that, a more embodied recognition of that. Knowing that love is not separate from who I am. I am love. So this is the paradox, the crazy paradox that doesn't seem to make sense. Because on one hand, this human, this woman, was totally broken. But on the other hand, I was absolutely fine. And I'm not saying that I was fine as a way of escaping the human pain. Not at all. There was nowhere to escape to. The human had to go on the roller coaster of the journey of grief. And for anyone who's lost a loved one, you perhaps know that grief is quite a journey. From shock to numbness to trying to make sense of it to feeling like going insane, trying to grasp at anything, any little bit of him that might be still left, smelling his clothes, trying to grasp some essence of him. And then the more otherworldly experiences, dreams, energetic sense of him still being here. And again, trying to grasp that and failing and failing and failing, losing, feeling him drift further and further away. While all the while knowing that we're not separate. And not understanding that. It was not ever something that I could understand. But I surrendered to the roller coaster, and I continue to, because although it's 2.5 years, or a little bit more than that even, it's still, I feel I still am grieving. And I don't know if it'll ever end, because the way I see grief is that it's an expression of love. It's an endless opening to love. And as much as, of course, I would never have wanted my love to die, I'm also so grateful for the gift of his death. And again, I hear myself say that and it doesn't make sense. And yet it makes perfect sense. Really seeing the thin line between life and death. How we take ourselves to really be so important and special, the ones living in these bodies. And just like that, game over. And of course, then the question of where did he go? how could he be here and then be gone? And of course, the mind can't find the answers. But on the other hand, I know the answers in a different way, not through the mind. I know that there's an even deeper and more real connection between him and I, even more than when he was alive, if that's possible, because we were pretty close. And life continues to crack me open in each experience. But this experience of losing the most beloved one, it brought me to my knees in a way that I don't think anything ever could have done that. And that's the gift. That's the heart opening. In the heartbreak, it continues to break down all even the subtle energetic walls, the subtle energetic holding. And it allows me to be more and more touched by life, by people. Although I could be very deeply touched before he died, when someone that I was working with spoke about loss or some tragedy in their lives, for me, it touched me, but now it touches me in a totally different way. It's like it's in me. It's my own pain. So although that's more painful, on the other hand, it's a wonderful gift to be able to really feel the pain of other people, to really let people in. There's less and less protection, less and less need to be anyone in particular in this life. It feels like I've lost it all. I lost the most precious gift that I had, so then what does it matter? I'm willing to keep losing anything else I may still have. I'm willing to keep turning myself inside out, revealing and exposing whatever is here, whatever humanity is here, whatever raw, messy feelings and sensations and thoughts, whatever the human experience is. I may be playing the role of this spiritual teacher, but on the other hand, I'm really very human. And this is so much easier, in fact, to be human. I find it too much effort to maintain any persona, any role in particular. To just share and to express and to constantly let in you all right now, feeling you. I feel you as myself. And this is the gift of my love's death. This is the gift of life. So wonder if anyone has any questions or anything else you'd like me to say more about.
Thank you. I find sometimes it feels like words in these moments almost trespass on something that you were pointing towards and evoking among us. Maybe I can begin here with a question while we see if there are others from those who are with us. And you said something about this experience of losing the beloved and this experience of grief being an invitation to acknowledge that which does not die. And in a way you spoke to that, but I would just like to ask that particular question of what is that which does not die, and leads me to the question of who or what is dying in these moments, like your understandings there.
Yeah. And this is the very paradox that I was talking about. In fact, that our true nature, life itself, that is beyond all these words, that can't be contained in a single word like awareness or consciousness, or as much as those words do attempt to point to that, they never really say it. That is not who we think we are, not our story, not our history, not the one that lives in time, not our body. And in experiencing my beloved's death, I really had a very tangible experience of that doesn't die. Because as I was holding him, I was holding his face and looking into his eyes, and in that moment, he didn't go anywhere. And yet, of course, I watched his body go through the dying process. And the same experience for me, that I was fine while simultaneously I was watching this woman scream and shout, stay with me, stay with me. And this paradox. There was certainly a part of me that went with him. And again, I can't make sense of that. It's not something that I can put into logical words and concepts. But that was my experience. That I traveled with him. And that traveling, when I somehow went wherever he went to for about 2 weeks. 2.5 weeks, I was with him. And at a certain point, he seemed to go further, and I couldn't go with him there. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't have some kind of belief system or framework to place this into. All I can explain, all I can share is my experience. And even with my experience, as I share it and express it in words, it's limited, because these words can't really say what my experience was, or what in fact our shared experience was. But that certainly opened my eyes to the fact that there is some kind of continuation for the human experience, even though there is our true nature that doesn't die, that isn't even born into these bodies, that I'm in fact aware of this human experience. But at the same time, death seemed to be just a doorway that you can pass through. But like I said, my mind isn't even grasping it or trying to put it into some kind of box of, reincarnation or, anything like that. It's just like, okay, that's interesting. I hold it lightly, like, okay, that's what I experienced, but I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
Somehow I'm reminded of the imagery that Bayo, who was speaking this morning, has often invoked of the crossroads. And it's a very rich invocation when he speaks to it. And in some ways, it's kind of the crossroads of temporality, of time, of space, of all in one. And I said, as you were trying to find words to speak to this, somehow this is the image that came. And I thank you for the willingness to try to put words to that. Words cannot quite
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will just read a question that I see here in the chat, and then maybe return to another one that I had as well. And this one is from Claire Elizabeth. Claire, do you want to come on video and ask the question yourself, or shall I read it? If you're out there, you can unmute yourself and come and ask your question. Well, I will read it then.
Yes.
Oh, there she is.
Yes, I had to figure out because it said I wasn't allowed, and then you changed it, or somebody changed it. So here I am. Yes. I just am wondering how losing him in this way affected your own perception and your own relationship with your own death.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and it certainly did affect my perception of my own death. Yeah. It was part of that slap in the face that I mentioned earlier, that actually, yeah, we do actually die. Of course, I know from a young age that one day, I'm going to die. My parents told me that, but it's always somehow in the future, or a little bit dreamy somehow. But when it happens right in front of you, to someone that you're so close to, that you feel that you're not even really separate from, then it's like, okay, if it can happen to him, then it can happen to me, and it is going to happen to me. And at the same time, it made death seem a little bit friendlier, a little bit more friendly, because if he's gone there already, then I can do that too. If he had the courage to pass through that gateway, then I can have the courage to do that too.
Mm-hmm. Oh. So less fearful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I also suddenly took an interest in death and life after death, and all these kind of traditions that I didn't, I had read a little bit about in the past, but didn't have such an interest in it. And in the weeks, months after he died, I got hold of all the books and the information I could possibly get my hands on about death and grief and life after death and all the different beliefs that people have. And I, through reading about death, I didn't jump on one belief system that I really started to believe in. I just was curious and let it all touch me. And I resonated with some things and other things not. But it made me also more curious about death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm very grateful that you also talked about how hard the grieving is, because sometimes I think those of us who are spiritual think that it's gonna, we won't have those really powerful, strong emotions. Because no, of course you did, and I'm very grateful that you didn't gloss it over. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's certainly brings, keeps your feet on the ground. Grief, you can't be spiritual with it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I wonder if Richard Leversey, who also wrote in a question, is able to come on video and would still like to ask this question.
Hello, Unmani.
Hello.
I also lost my beloved almost 3 years ago.
Wow.
And I've been a grief practitioner since then. And so my question is, do you find yourself looking forward to joining your beloved soul in the spirit realm? And how do you imagine that to be?
I would love to really believe in that and be waiting for that. In a sense, I guess I am. I find it's also very natural as part of the grieving process that you look for your beloved everywhere, and I see him everywhere all the time. Like, of course, it's not really him, but I think even today I was walking around and I thought I saw him for half a second. So there's something in me that's waiting to meet him again, waiting to really share with him things that happened, share our son's growing up experiences, and of course I'd love to meet him again, but I can't, in all truth, hold on to a belief that that's going to happen. I'm open to the possibility, and I'd love that to be the case, but like I said, I can't hold on to a belief. I don't feel the need even to hold on to a belief in that. And I'm also not waiting to meet him in the spirit realm, because I feel his spirit, or whatever that is, here still. It's in a different way to the first couple of weeks after he died, but somehow still feel him here. So I'm waiting and I'm not waiting, and I'm, it's again not something you can particularly put your finger on. And I don't want, I'm saying that I don't want to, or I don't have a belief in that, because it would be very easy for my mind to latch hold onto that kind of belief, simply because I want it to be true. But I'm always welcoming of my thoughts and beliefs. You know, they're welcome to be here, but at the same time, I don't take them too seriously. You know, I don't give too much importance to those kinds of thoughts. So they're welcome to want it, but it still is as it is. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you for the question, Richard, and for reminding us of the beauty of the northern lights in your screen. I see that there's a question from Andrew Bishop, and I wonder, Andrew, if you're able to get unmuted and on video so we can hear your question.
Here I am. Well, Unmani, I really appreciated your sharing around this loss. And I love this idea of death as a gift. I think we learn about, you know, being grateful about all sorts of things in our experience, and death's a tough one, I reckon. But I get it, how you've described it. And one thing I took from that was, I think part of that gift was a detachment from this, an ability to sort of separate, I guess, attention into this particular being or perhaps shared experience, and to open you up for other experiences and other things. With that, I guess I'm curious now, you talked about how, I guess in the early stages, everything was about this other person and the lives you've had. Has that changed now with the detachment, if I can call it that? Do you still, if you had to remove all traces of this person from your space, or is it more like you're okay with it being there now and you've just moved on from that? I'm just curious to how that's been for you.
All traces of it, you mean like stuff you're talking about? Or
I mean stuff, of course, the things inside, that doesn't go, right? That's always there. I mean the things external, right? The material.
The thing is that I can't remove all traces of him because we have a son, and he looks a bit like him, and you know, I'm constantly reminded of him through, you know, our little son Sky, and I don't want to remove all traces of him. I love to have traces of his stuff around, but at the same time, it's a process of letting go of more and more of his actual stuff. You know, I didn't want to do it straight away, and I didn't want, you know, I know some people deal with it by getting rid of all the stuff straight away, and like a clean break cut. But I never felt like being so harsh with myself, and I let it go slowly, and at the same time, some things are still with me. I have his guitars. He was a beautiful musician, and I have his guitars, and I love to have them there. And sometimes I pick up his one classical guitar that he loved so much that sometimes it felt like he loved his guitar more than he loved me. And you know, I love to hold it and play it a bit, and it makes me feel good. So yeah, I'm not in a rush to cut him out of my life. No, not at all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to try to articulate a question here. Maybe this is our last question for the session. I've been on the West Coast from California up here, now in Washington, went back and forth between Oregon, and I was actually at Mauricio and Zaya's with fires, and the ash was falling from the sky, and the death of the forests and the birds and the creatures, and was aware of what I was giving, if I could say it this way, giving resonance to, putting attention towards. And I noticed there was a quality of longing for, it's almost hard to say what it was, something to be different, longing for a better way of understanding. And I bring this question up because we're speaking of the death in the human realm, but there's also the other deaths that are happening around us right now and how we're moved and touched by that. And you speak often to this quality of longing. And I wonder if you have some guidance for us not to get caught in the attachment of longing, but from are you learning that that longing is springing from as we bear witness to loss and life?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I find longing so beautiful. I mean, it's what it's all about, longing. But I find that usually longing is believed to be a longing for something, either a spiritual goal or longing for things to be different in some way. But actually, longing is a beautiful cracking open that can be experienced right now. It's not a longing for. It doesn't have a need for anything to be different. It's a willingness to just let life crack you open. Let life break you right now. Let life touch you, even if it's painful. Even if it really feels like you can't go on. A willingness to let that in. And to keep taking the next step in life, whatever it is, and living with that longing or heartbreak. This allows everything to be felt. Even if you don't want to feel it, it's here. And there's no escape from life, really. You can try, you can push it away, you can have a belief that one day it'll get better, or that it should get better, or that you need to change the world. And there's so many beliefs you can hold on to that act as a way of protecting yourself from feeling, from letting it in. And my invitation to you is to let it in. Because although it's painful, it is also letting in love, letting in life. As we let in death and loss, grief, pain, heartbreak, we come alive more. We have the courage to live the passion for the truth, to live life fully. This is what it's all about.
Thank you. Yeah, much moving, and I feel we could continue. And as one friend started calling things a clopening, a moment of closing and opening, we're, I think, nearing that place. And I know that Carlos put into our chat just that Unmani holds a regular open webinar on Sundays. And he put a link to her website there, Die to Love, the webinars. And I know she also just did a retreat in Portugal, and so perhaps is doing other retreats. We'll see if you want to continue. And I just want to thank you for your generosity of heart and your authentic sharing with us here today, and trying to put words to that which is ineffable and beyond what we with our Western minds and words can perceive. And thank you so much just for the vulnerability that is felt here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.